Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
Well, who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And who is he?
Bruce Rivers, he's the criminal lawyer.
And what he do?
And it's gonna react to all the self-snitching.
Hi, this is Bruce Rivers. Welcome to another fun-filled episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. I'm Bruce Rivers, board-certified criminal defense lawyer. What does it mean to be board-certified? It means you've had exams. It means that you've had enough trial experience that you become a specialist in the area of criminal trial work. I'm board-certified by the National Board of Trial Advocacy and by the Minnesota State Bar Association as a criminal trial and criminal law specialist. It's what I do. It's what I love to do. But why does that matter? It matters because as I analyze the Donald Trump indictment, which is what we're doing today, it is through that lens that you'll see in a way that you won't see anywhere else. But before we get to that, we got a couple things we want to say. First, this is brought to you by what? eSign.com. eSign.com. Let's say that you are a former president and you are well, you go to eSign.com to get your new lawyer on board because you don't like what the other ones are saying. You can't leave Mar-a-Lago because you got a warrant out for your arrest in Manhattan. So what do? You call the lawyer up and the lawyer drafts a retainer agreement, sends it to you, eSign. He downloads the app. You get 3 free signatures a month, and then you are able to do your business remotely. eSign.com is a very effective way to do business remotely. I use it all the time when I have a client that can't come into the office or I just need to get something done quickly. And even with power of attorney, you're able to remotely sign documents, and it's an excellent, excellent way to remotely do business. All right. Also, sometimes fans show their appreciation in certain ways. And we've got somebody that sent us socks. I'm going to read this to you. This is so awesome because Bryce from Lansing, Michigan, this is for you. Since finding your YouTube channel, I've given up watching most trials. Instead, I just wait for your excellent video reviews and analysis. Looking forward to the podcast about which you've been forecasting. Perhaps you'll have video in your action in the courtroom. Well, probably won't be doing that anytime soon. I don't like it when we have clients that are in the media like that, because if they are in the media, that means it's a high profile and they're kind of screwed. And as my grandma would say, you are a damn smart dressing guy. Well, this is just so sweet. So Bryce, nice guy, sends me a Giorgio Armani tie. I'll be wearing this in our next episode. Thank you, Bryce. Shout out to you. All right, so now we are reacting to DJT, Donald John Trump. He was indicted, as we all know, this week. He turned himself in. And let's talk about what an indictment is. A grand jury has to sign off on whatever charges that are there. And so in this indictment, Donald Trump was charged with 34 counts of falsifying a business record in the first degree. What does that mean? It means that he falsified a business record with the intent to conceal or commit another crime. What's the other crime? It can be election interference. It could be a tax violation. We don't exactly know because it doesn't specify in the indictment what the crime is. 100%, the whole indictment revolves around Michael Cohen. There's no question in my mind about it. My understanding is that with Michael Cohen, when he did the thing with Stormy Daniels, I think it was 3, maybe 4 payments. And if we break down the indictment, the falsified records breaks down into 3 different categories. Invoices, all from Michael Cohen. Checks, all from Donald Trump, and ledger entries into the Trump organization. So you have 11 invoices, 11 checks, and 12 ledger entries. So it gives you 34 counts. How will this be pursued at trial by Alvin Bragg? One of the things about documents is that they don't lie. And you're going to have Michael Cohen come in to testify. People are going to say, oh, Michael Cohen's a liar, blah, blah, blah. But keep in mind, he kept him on the payroll for 10 years. All right? So He knows where the bodies are buried, and he knows what these invoices are for. But more importantly, he knows what they're not for, right? They are not for legal services. These are for catch and kill. These are for hiding the Stormy Daniels thing just before the election. My understanding now, and I'm going off of other reports that I've heard and other news stories that I've heard, is it really centers around 2 people. One is Stormy Daniels. The other is Karen McDougal. Karen McDougal, as you know, was this beautiful woman who had an affair with Donald Trump. Trump wants to bury this stuff. He wants to catch and kill. So he contacts David Pecker. Nice name, Pecker. Anyway, Pecker has the Inquirer. the National Enquirer. So he goes out and he buys her story for 150 grand. My understanding is that that Trump stiffed Pecker. That really sounds bad, doesn't it? He stiffed a Pecker. Anyway, paid her $150,000 for the story, and then he sat on it and didn't do anything with it, and so that's called catch and kill. Now, there's two ways let's back up just a little bit. The falsifying a business record in New York State, I'll read you the statute. A person is guilty of falsifying business records in the first degree when he commits the crime of falsifying the business record in the second degree, which is a misdemeanor, and when his intent to defraud includes an intent to commit another crime or to aid or conceal the commission thereof. So basically, if I am, and here's the thing, there's only one reason to falsify a business record, and that is to conceal it for some other purpose. Now, if concealing it because I just don't want Melania to find out because she thinks I'm such a choir boy, yeah, who believes that? Nobody believes that. That's one thing, and that probably will be his defense. But if it's to conceal it from, let's say, conceal it from the public just before an election, that's a little bit harder to prove. But if he's listing them, regardless of let's say that was his motivation to conceal it from the public for the purpose of the election. But if in the alternative, you actually deduct them as, legal fees, and they're not legal fees, they're reimbursements for stuff that wouldn't be deductible anyway. That is, I think, where Trump is most vulnerable. And I think that is where Bragg, I think that's where Bragg is that's the easiest way to prove this case, is through taxes. And who's more vulnerable than anybody else on taxes? Guess what? It's Donald J. Trump. So when you look at the indictment, it doesn't tell a story. There's a thing called a speaking indictment or just a bare bones. This is a bare bones indictment. And what it basically does is it just lays out in very stark terms that he's falsifying a record, and he did it for the purpose of committing another crime or concealing another crime. Now, here's some of my issues with Trump. He's a professed billionaire, right? He's a professed billionaire. Oh, I'm funding my own campaign. How much money has he raised? How much money is he continuing to raise from people who don't have it? He did that NFT thing with him in a spacesuit, him as a cowboy. That he just ripped off from Shutterstock. It's just a grift. It's a constant grift on the public. Let's just kind of analyze the mountain of legal shit that he's going through. Okay, in about a week and a half, he's got a trial starting in New York, and that's the defamation trial with the woman who claimed that he had raped her years ago, and then he said it didn't happen or called her all kinds of names, and that case is going forward. I don't really think that that's that big a case, to be honest with you, but it's a case, and it's a case that's going to trial. Pain in the neck. Still got to pay somebody to be there, right? Then you got this New York case. Then you've got the Letitia James case that's going to trial in October. That's a $250 million fraud case. Then you've got the DOJ, who's got two cases. You got the January 6th, and then you have the Mar-a-Lago documents. The classified documents being held at Mar-a-Lago, along with an obstruction charge. Then you've got the Fani Willis down in Fulton County, Georgia. And she's indicated, and we'll play this for you here in a second, that she is going to be indicting him soon.
We are going to get the special purpose grand jury sworn on May the 2nd.
And whether she indicts on just a bare bones indictment like this, or whether it becomes a RICO, is a completely different story. And here's what this indictment in New York does. Basically, it establishes a pattern and practice of fraud. And so falsifying business records in the first degree is a Class E felony. Now, what does that mean? That means that it has a maximum, each count has a maximum of 4 years. Now, is he looking at 4 times 34? I really doubt it. I think you could group these into probably groups of 4 or 5. And because if you look at it, count 1, invoice for Michael Cohen. Count 2, ledger entry, voucher, whatever the number is. And then you've got count 4, check, probably to Michael Cohen. So those all kind of relate to each other. So they almost could be one count, really. But he's charged each entry, each business record that's been falsified as a count. And so I think a judge is going to be a little circumspect about charging, or sentencing all of them together, or not together, but sentencing them all of them separately. That just isn't going to happen. He's not going to get like 200 years or, 4 times 34 would be 136 years. That's not going to happen. But could he get 10 years? He very conceivably could get 10 years. And that's 10 years for him would be a life sentence. So when you have this cast of characters, and keep in mind that David Pecker has been before the grand jury and likely will testify at trial. Alan Weisselberg will testify at trial, I'm sure. Whether he'll be called to testify, whether he testifies or not, and he's got some exposure too because he's knee deep in this with everybody else. And keep in mind he's getting out of Rikers Island pretty soon. He did 5 months for Trump, and then you've got Michael Cohen. And so Michael Cohen's going to be, even though he is this convicted liar. I hate air quotes, but I just did it. He's this convicted liar. He also has to be corroborated. You can't just take Michael Cohen's word for it. There's going to be plenty other people who are going to corroborate what he says, along with documents and recordings. Remember, he was recorded. You don't hear a substantive defense on any of these counts. You don't hear count 1 never happened. Count 2 never happened. And here's why count 3 is wrong. You don't hear any defense on the merits at all. And if you say, this wouldn't happen but for Trump, Bragg has prosecuted 117 of these in the past successfully. So he is not just picking on Donald Trump. Cohen went to prison for this. Cohen went to prison for things he did for Donald Trump, among other things, and lying for Donald Trump. And so the principal gets off scot-free. And keep in mind, it's so long ago. Well, keep in mind, it's really not that long ago because they really weren't in the position to charge him while he was president. So that was only 2.5 years ago, right? So he hasn't been out of office that long, or 3 years ago. He hasn't been out of office that long. So you watch. I think this is going to be a very easy case for Alvin Bragg to prove. I really do. In any event, this has just been our quick reaction to give you kind of a bird's eye view of what this indictment really is about and what his exposure is. Now, I can't tell you exactly if they get a conviction on all these counts where the judge is going to come down, but I can tell you this. First thing you're going to see out of the block from Trump is a motion to dismiss. And that won't go anywhere. That just won't go anywhere. They may ask for a bill of particulars because there's not a whole lot of facts within the indictment itself. And they may get that. But let's just keep following this. And my hat's off to Bryce. Thank you, Bryce. I love it when I get positive vibes from you guys. And here's the thing. I was just in Denver, on a federal gun case. And I was at the airport sitting down, and all of a sudden I'm telling this guy how great our channel is and how great our fans are, and once in a while I get recognized. All of a sudden there's this waitress that's working there, Bruce Rivers, and she just was going crazy about our channel. We love it. We love it. If you see me out and about, don't hesitate to say hi. Put your comments in. We'll try to get to things you guys want to see. And we're just having a blast. Part of it we're having such a blast doing this is because I have such a great content genius as a son, Michael Rivers. He is awesome. We're going to be starting a podcast soon. And when we do the podcast, guess what? It'll be Michael and I on camera, bantering back and forth. We get along really well. We love each other. He's my best buddy, and he's very smart. and I think you'll find that super entertaining. It'll be more long form. We'll have guests and hopefully to educate and entertain. So that's what we do. So this is Bruce Rivers for another episode of Criminal Lawyer Reacts. Thanks for watching. Make sure you sign up for Patreon, subscribe, follow us on Instagram, follow us on Twitter, and we'll see you next time here on Criminal Lawyer Reacts.
Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away. Bruce Rivers just broke down your case. He know all the charges that you about to face. You ain't coming home till 2058. That self-snitching gon' get you put away.
23-hour lockdown, police is at my call.